and we have been putting together some really good tips on how to do that personally in my personal business of facilitating fun and team building for schools worldwide. But today I brought together some of the key leaders in education, specifically when it comes to innovative, informal education, to present for you guys here. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Each presenter is going to have a 5-minute clock. Please don't take it disrespectful, but with 1 minute left, I'm just going to pop on and say 1 minute left, and then you'll know you have a couple of minutes just to wrap up. Okay, now if anybody knows, just as a taiva, as a chesed, my problem with the YouTube is I'm going to make myself very vulnerable here, even though I want to be perfect, but I want to be able to make myself vulnerable. That's also part of teaching and being a mechanech. My YouTube link to stream live from Zoom is plugged in to an old URL, and I want to be able to put on this Zoom link for my next YouTube link. So if somebody knows how to do that, they could just private message me here on the chat room, and during the next presenter, I'll be able to set that all up. All right, without further ado, we're going to call up our first presenter. This presenter, her name is Adina. She's all the way out in Winnipeg, Manitoba. She has a BA in education, specializing in schools, taught a variety of ages around the world, specifically middle school. She now currently directs Torah Talks preschool for the past 10 years and is the co-director of the Jewish Learning Institute. Adina, your clock starts now.
1 second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so now my clock starts. Give me an extra 10 seconds, Jay. Come on.
Deal.
All right, so good evening. I want to start by telling you guys about Shayna. Now, Shayna is a bright, lively social bird. She loves hanging out, connecting with other people, and she lives on Shluchus with her family in a small prairie in Canada. Now, you see, there was no middle school where Shayna lived, and she just dreaded the day where she would have to go to online school. She was terrified of sitting in front of a computer like I'm sitting now. She craved connection, and she felt alone and afraid. Now, the source of her fear came from the fact that most of the girls in the class had started online school at age 5. And they've already formed their friendships and their code names and all their connections. And she was a new girl starting out just at almost her bat mitzvah. So Shayna was adamant that she's not going online. She told her mother the whole summer through, it's not happening, I'm not going. Now, her mother had no idea how to inspire her daughter to get online. She was at her wit's end. She had no idea what to do. Sure enough, the night before the class was supposed to start, the phone rings, and a beautiful little girl named Etty called and asked to speak to Shayna. Now, Etty was part of this class, and the teacher of the upcoming class had asked Etty to please get on in there and go call Shayna. This mom watched with unbelievable excitement as her daughter's entire attitude slowly began to come back to life. Layers and layers were removed. They started laughing about how to bring snacks to class and how to make little pranks on their teacher. And sure enough, the next day, she was ready on time to go to her class. Now, this might seem like a very small thing, and indeed it is a small thing. But this small act literally was the key for this Shayna. And it transformed her doom into Zoom. So tonight, we're gathered here. You know, it gives me great honor to be with so many other fabulous educators. And the fact that you're on here means that you care and you're dedicated. And it's going to give us a chance to try to strengthen each other and learn how can we take our classrooms from Doom to Zoom. So for some of you, this may be terrifying. For some, you're super excited. Some of you have teaching in your back pocket and you're like, okay, now how do we adapt to this new challenge? So I want to begin this evening by pausing and recognizing that although the backdrop changed, the principles of education remain exactly the same. And each of you are trained to actually do this. And I want to begin by emphasizing you're going to be hearing a lot of things. There's no right or wrong way. You are the leader in your classroom. Now, take a moment to pause and think what worked when you were in your classroom. What made you unique? What was out of the box that kind of really enabled you to connect with your students? Can any of those things work now currently with maybe just a different twist? So I challenge you during the next hour or so to allow yourself to be open-minded. Put all those sabotaging and critical voices on pause and allow yourself the gift of truly listening. Innovation means new ideas, new original ways of thinking in a fun, lighthearted, and enjoyable way. So in order to do that, we got to just pause and try to give ourselves an open canvas, because I'm sure something tonight you can take and bring back to your classroom. So just remember, you're the pilot and you design the class, and it's your attitude and choices that can inspire your students to Zoom to your class. So I'm going to get into a few practical things. If we got to clean up our perspective and think, what is our main goal as educators? Why are we here? Our job, listen, you could mute everybody and you could look at yourself on the screen and you can probably give the most fantastic lecture you've ever given in your life to a screen. Or you can choose to literally connect and to help the children in your care feel inspired, open their minds so they're actually really, truly learning and growing. And the greatest part is that there is no textbook for this way. So you get to design it the way that works for you. Now, as an early childhood educator for so many years, when I am confused about where to start with a new challenge, I always go back to Rabbi Shimon Russell's 4 S's. He describes the way to truly connect to children so that they're open to live and to learn inside your classroom. And I find that this is my compass. When I have these things and when I have that connection with the child, then the rest of the learning process comes so much more easily, and it's frankly so much more fun. So the 4 S's I'm going to go through briefly, and I'm going to give you some practical tips, and then I'm going to close up here. So the first S is safety and security. It sounds like something small, but make sure your kids know what's flying. I know you're going to be hearing a lot of different games and ideas, but a child who's coming into a room and doesn't have the right supplies, it's confusing. Give them time to organize their books. It's huge. Give them time to tell them what are the things that's going to be happening. If you're using a new tool, explain them these tools, right? You can go through it quickly with an older age, depending on who you have. And remember, your attitude really is felt through the computer. I was watching my daughter, and you could feel
one minute.
No! Okay, so I'm going to go through very quickly. Soothing. Make sure you come in with positivity. Have fun. Be nice. Be kind. Be understanding. You don't have to do fancy lessons. More than the information that you're giving, think about that you have your whole morning. You can break up your time differently to be able to really connect with the children. So a child needs to feel safe, secure, soothing, and the 4th one is seen. And this is where I'm going to end because my time is up. Take the times to say each child's name. Take a paper, write on one piece of paper every name of your child, and put a check every time you called on them. Put a note every time you privately called them. Use your time wisely. This is called a class at a glance, and make sure that you're keeping in touch with every student in your class. And my closing story is the first time I taught, I wanted to be Miss Creativity, and I came into my 6th grade classroom on the 3rd level of a floor, and I brought an entire suitcase with all these fun games. I was going to review Yeshua, and my class students, one by one, took every single thing out of my suitcase and literally threw it out the window. And this taught me that each one of us have unique strengths. The routines and the connection with the children is the basis in order for you to then bring in the innovative ideas. JJ, I'm going to give you my list of all these other fun things. Make a dress up day that the kids can wear something connected to learning on their clothes. Do an I Spy game that in the back of their picture, they have to put something that connects to the learning. Empower them, ask them how they can help. All the games that you're going to be hearing about soon. Think out of the box. And so I just want to end by challenging each one of you to let the ideas that you'll hear in the next couple minutes wash over you. Trust your instincts because you are the leader and you've got this. And be kind to yourself and the children along the way. They feel your energy. And most of all, I give you a blessing. May all your students Zoom to your Zoom class.
Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I keep going?
What a way to kick this off. I have to say that was a lot of fun. She also is my sister, so I might be a little
JJ, if I have if you have any more time, I have like tons of more stuff. If anyone wants to call me, let them follow up. I have a lot more practical.
Well, I think your email address for anybody who'd like to contact you for any sort of consultation or support.
Perfect. Tremendous.
We're going to go a little bit of a different angle here. And again, we're going to be talking about from preschool through high school. Here's going to be a little bit more for the older kids. We're going to go on now to an excellent educator. His name is Tzvi Haber in Baltimore. He's a teacher at the Beth Tfilah Dahan Community Day School. He's known as Reb Tzvi. And this year he's teaching 8th grade Judaics with a strategic focus on mining a love for Judaism, for Yiddishkeit. In the hearts of his students, from diverse and wide-ranging backgrounds. He's also the director of the entire Mid-Atlantic region of Chai Lifeline, and he's pursuing his master's in business with a concentration in management and leader. Without further ado, Tzvi, I'll unmute you here. I think you're unmuted already. Tzvi, take it away. 5 minutes start now.
Hey everybody! First of all, before I begin, I wanted to just express my karsatov to JJ for just doing what JJ does, which is rallying the Jewish people to inspire the world. And JJ, thank you for this opportunity. I think I speak for everyone on this call when we say that we could not do what we do without people like you. So I want to actually start today by quoting one of my favorite authors. His name is Priya Parker. Priya Parker has a world-renowned book called The Art of Gathering. And in this book, she talks about how there is an art to gathering people. This in concepts of in people in person. And I actually reached out to her 2 weeks ago and I said, okay, well, now that we're on Zoom and now that we're not able to gather, what would it be if you give me one piece of advice for Zoom classes? What would it be? And she gave me such a beautiful idea I wanted to share with you all. She said, the Zoom class starts before you give class. She said, your best feature on Zoom is that you don't just let everyone into the class, just like ideally when you're in a classroom, you wait by that front door and you welcome each person in. The idea that Miss Parker gave me was, don't open a waiting room and only allow one student at a time in. That person joins. Hey, Shmuley, welcome. How was your day last night? I know you had that big test yesterday. Hey, Rivka, so good to see you. Come on in. I love your new hairdo, right? The first piece of advice I'm going to give you all is an advice from Priya Parker, which she discusses the idea of that the art of gathering starts at the very doorway, whether it's the literal door or the virtual door. That's idea number one, and that goes from preschool all the way to high school. I'm going to share with you a few more ideas. I, in the past 3 weeks, have realized just an idea that's been working for me, and it might not work for you, is building on what I think JJ's sister Adina said was name calling, but I think I actually got it down to a little bit of a science. Your goal should be, and I know it sounds crazy, but to say 3 students' names within 60 seconds. So let me give you an example of that. Anyway, so JJ was walking last week, and then all of a sudden bumped into Rabbi B, and Rabbi B looks at JJ and was like, Rabbi B, what did you say? He said, well, you were eating that piece of meat and you don't know you fell in the bar and you fell in that pit. Who's chayiv? Who's responsible for falling and slipping and getting hurt, right? And then you didn't know what to do, so you went to your rabbi. Who is your rabbi's name? And you scroll through your class roster and you pick another class, a student's name. Oh, you went to Judge Bailey. And Judge Bailey looked back and forth. She looked at JJ and she looked at Rabbi Bay and she went back and forth. Constantly name drop. And I think that, what's working for me is 3 names, 60 seconds. Now, it could be in history. It could be in Judaics. It doesn't matter. The point is that you are constantly pulling attention from your students. In real life, you wouldn't have to do that because you could walk around the room. But I'm finding that if you name drop, but pull 3 names in every 60 seconds, I'm moving forward. You have to leverage technology, but also your kids' favorite games. The games that I'm using right now that are working really, really well is leveraging one student. A woman named Hannah Lipsker. Hannah, I don't know you. I'm gonna.
You broke out.
Hannah share her screen.
Tzvi.
Yeah.
Start again from the 2 games you use. You broke out there for a second.
Sorry. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Now we hear you.
So one of the games, you leverage students against each other, right? So for example, if I have Hannah Lipskar on this call, Hannah, you share your screen and we're playing Tetris. But you have another student, let's say it's Carly, who's on this call also. Carly has to tell Hannah how to move her pieces virtually. So you're constantly playing students off each other. If you have history teachers here, Google Maps. Bring your students on a virtual tour of the areas that you're talking about. If you're in Bavel, Sefaria has this beautiful content, but go on Google Maps, bring it into modern day Iraq, right? There's an old TV show from the 90s, Whose Line Is It Anyways, that has lists of games, scenes from a hat, right? Answering only in questions. We played a game today, and this is my second to last note for today. We played
1 minute left, Tzvi.
Great. I played a game with my students today that everyone could only talk in questions. So when I only gave questions today, my students only were able to answer in questions. Last week, funny hats, they had to adopt funny accents. Constantly keeping every student engaged as much as possible by pitting them against each other. Competition is your best asset on Zoom calls. The last thing I'm going to say, again, for another, if you want me to give you a more embellished idea, but Clue, the classic board game of Clue works beautifully on Zoom. I'm going to end with saying thank you to everyone for your time. I'm sorry that I don't know all of you, but I look forward to getting to know all of you one day in the educational world. I personally am inspired to be amongst all of you, and I know that together we'll be able to meet this challenge that Klal Yisrael is facing head on.
Thank you so much, Tzvi. Let's give a round of applause for Tzvi. Come on, everybody. Feel the energy. After all, we're program directors. We're looking for the fun. We got to, come on. All right, amazing. Wake up, everybody. We're moving on. I am so excited for the next presenter, someone who I also look up to. Everybody who I brought on today, I look up to. And I a little bit selfishly wanted to hear from myself how to integrate into my teaching. So without further ado, Rabbi B. Rabbi B is known lovingly across the globe. He's a Jewish musician and educator from Toronto, Canada. I know there's lots of people on from Canada. Give it up for Canada. He holds a master's degree in education. He's professionally educating children for over 15 years. He's successfully directed and advised a number of homeschools and is currently a full-time music teacher for pre-nursery to grade 2nd and Nitivot HaTorah. Without further ado, Rabbi B, 5 minutes start now.
You forgot humble also. Okay, so 5 minutes starts. I'm not going to do any preface. Basically, some really good tips. I find that especially with the online learning, variety is key. Having different things happening, not just you sitting and talking. So for example, a variety of different backgrounds, virtual background. So right now you can see I have my virtual background of a classroom. It could be fun. And then all of a sudden I'm talking about, we're going to go on a trip to Israel. Let's go visit the Kotel. And then we can talk about the Kotel. And there's a variety of backgrounds. That's one idea of variety that you can use to just keep the interest going. Because it's like instead of in the classroom, you're moving around, it keeps the kids a bit occupied in their minds. They can focus a bit better. So having virtual backgrounds, I find, are really, really fun to use. If you don't know how to use it, there's lots of Zoom tutorials you can find. But at the very bottom, you can find virtual backgrounds. Also, when you're looking for a background, you want to make sure you find a picture that is a large picture, not a small picture. So for example, if I was going to share my screen, I can share my screen and I can just say classroom, background, and I look in the images. What you can do is in the tools, you can choose the size of picture you want. So you can find large pictures. And then when you click on it, on the bottom corner, it tells you how big it is. If it's over a 900, I would say 900 by 1200, I would say is a good size, or 19, this is large. That's big. So when you actually are using it for background, it won't be blurry. It'll be nice and clear. So it'll look nice and crisp and clear. So it will be nice and fun to use. Virtual backgrounds are lots of fun, as well as what I just did, sharing screens. So if you're talking, Tzvi just gave a good point of Google Maps. Today we talked about Israel in school. I was showing them how to get from our house in Toronto to Israel. You have to go east. That's why we face east when we daven. We face Mizrach, and we're learning our directions, Mizrach and Mariv and all the different things and which directions to go. So we use Google Maps to show Israel's in the east. So Google Maps is a lot of fun too, as well as sharing videos as well. If you're talking about Pesach and you want to show them a really fun video, you just share a video and then the kids can watch and they can enjoy if it's young children. And if it's older children, of course, you can find other content that's applicable and relevant to the lesson you're teaching. Also, videos are really, really good, especially with Zoom, because they can give a different perspective. They can take things a bit beyond the classroom, and it's like going on a field trip. There's lots of online field trips they have available now, aquariums and zoos. And so you can definitely utilize these field trips, and you can add them to your lessons. If you're talking about Sphere Omer, you could talk about, there's a great video of a boy in Japan trying to make a high jump, and he tries it like 5 times until he finally gets it. And it just shows perseverance, and you can talk to the kids about that. And, so hunting these videos and using them is really fun and engaging for the kids. As well as going outside the classroom might be fun as well, to go outside your own room, do an outdoor class, especially now if the weather's getting better. I find that's as well really, really good. Now, a cool tip that I like to use sometimes also is there's a really good hack called using your cell phone. If you're using a computer, you can actually use your phone as well. So let me just give an example. Over here, I'm going to spotlight my phone. So now you're looking at my phone. I'm here, but I'm using my phone instead. So I'm over here talking to you, but I can use my phone as a second camera. So I had a Pesach game of who can tell me what things have to do with freedom and what things have to do with slavery. So looking at the pictures, okay, great. Matzah, that's good. That's about freedom and slavery, a little bit of both. Leaning, that's about freedom. Oh, dipping the karpas, that's avoida, that's slavery, and charos, that's slavery. So using the phone is also a really, really fun way to as well use a different camera if you want to take them outside, if you wanted to show a different perspective or something on your table. Instead of taking your whole webcam and folding it down, you can, there's my phone, you can use the cell phone instead. Another idea I always use as well is instead of doing the lesson live with the kids doing it in responding, which this again for younger children or for more of a crafting thing, don't use your Zoom time for crafts. Let crafts, let arts, let all that stuff kind of happen at their own time and maybe off Zoom, unless you have to be on top of them. Instead, I find showcasing the art, doing the activity live in front of them, and then saying, okay, that's the lesson. Now go and try this activity yourself. And then they can sign off. And then tomorrow you can start by asking, how did you find the activity? Show me the activity you did. Show me the art. Instead of having them do it right then and there on the Zoom, get them offline and get them working on their own in their own home and with their own things. Give them homework, but make it fun and not stuff that they have to do that they don't know what they're doing, but they've seen you do it. Another idea I want to share as well is I find when I'm speaking to the class, I'm speaking to one person. I'm speaking to you. I'm not speaking to everybody because you're by yourself. You're alone in your home. And I find especially with young kids, but I think with any kids, other than what Svi was suggesting as using all the names, and definitely as well incorporate that in the classroom in your online lecture, using the idea that you're talking to one kid. And therefore I find that your attention becomes a lot more specific. So if thank you, Rabbi JJ.
1 minute.
I was really talking to you the whole time. So it's important to kind of think you're talking to one kid, and then you can say, wow, great job. I'm really proud of you. You're amazing. That's really great. I'm glad you guys you're instead of saying you guys, see, I made the mistake. You're paying attention. You're really doing a great job. Let's see if you can try this. When you say you guys, sometimes it can be confusing, especially for young kids who are by themselves. As well, if you're reading, instead of looking down when you're reading and trying to read a script about something you're trying to teach, have it actually on your screen up the top. So right now I'm actually reading off of my page here. It says, it's a Hebrew song we were doing today. Aleph ohel bet zebayit gimel ze gamal gadol mahi dalet zuhi delet shepatachti et hakol. So I'm reading off the page right underneath the screen, right down there. Actually, it's right down there. But it actually looks like I was looking at you for most of the time. So it keeps the kids engaged too, instead of you looking down. Lastly, I have a microphone that I use. I have professional gear, but you can use, if you have any mic that connects through what's it called? I'm finished. Through USB, you don't have to be sitting down the whole time. You can actually get up and you can take the microphone with you, for example. You can have it hiding out of scene. That's just my beard from a Pesach skit. But you can have the microphone somewhere off stage and you can still be talking to them. And you can even use the virtual background to show something like Sfira to Omer. Maybe you're doing Sfira to Omer. Here's day 15. Here's day 18. Here's day 49. You can use your virtual background as sort of a backdrop. Right. So those are my tips, and I hope you guys have lots of hatzlacha in your learning and teaching, and keep it up. We're doing great.
Amen. Amen. Big round of applause for Rabbi B, everybody. All right. Wow. So many practical tips. We're going to go from Toronto, Canada now. We're going to go back to New York. Wow. We're really accomplishing here. Canada, North America. Soon we'll hear from Australia. All right. The next educator, program director. Her name is Esti. She attended Stern College where she received her BA in psychology with a minor in biology. Ooh la la. She's worked for Chabad on campus, Birthright, and various summer programs around the globe. Currently, she's the program director at the Shulamit High School of Long Island. All right, Esti, all yours. 5 minutes starts now.
Thanks, JJ. Long time no speak. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. JJ, thanks so much for leading. Yes, I'm Esti Monk. I'm the program director at Shulamit High School. And I would say that all of us probably can agree that we have this challenge of trying to teach virtually. And that comes with many challenges, but I want to focus on 3 critical points that I, as a program director, felt, and again, I'm different than a teacher, but I felt this would be our main obstacles, and this is where I would say, my main focus. The first thing is that I think it's really important that we all engage students. So it's one thing to, just log on to Zoom and teach your class, and then they go and they do their homework, and they're probably done with their day around 3, 4. But it's another thing to make them not feel simply homeschooled, but still part of a school. And that is something that I found to be a goal of Shalom. It's something we strive for, and so even more so virtually. Something that we implemented are challenges. So weekly or daily, I suggest you guys, if you have any questions, you can reach out, but this has been a game changer. We've been doing daily challenges, something as simple as create a vlog and send it to us. Tell us what your daily routine is now that your routine is a little bit different. And girls would make vlogs and share them. And it was just a sense of like people laughing together and commenting. Make dinner for your family, send a picture of it. That's been a really fun challenge. Something like a step challenge. How many steps can you take outside? Don't report us or anything. 6 feet away and all, don't worry. But so those challenges have been great. Another point I want to talk about is maintaining a sense of community. Shalom, we're a small school, but I think for everybody, it's so important to feel this sense of togetherness. The way we did that and what we're maintaining to do is something like pre-Shabbos Ruach. We have before Shabbos, we like to take it in together. This is not something we did during the school year, but again, we wanted to push further to make sure these girls still felt part of a community. These students felt part of their school community. So we would get an entertainer, we get them every Friday, just for even 15, 20 minutes of sitting there and singing and giving some Dvar Torah. And it really helps us go into Shabbos together and make us feel that warmth that's kind of lacking because we're only engaging within a screen. So that's something that's really important. I want to share with you actually one night activity that we had. We do night activities, something like lip sync battle, but this one was, again, to maintain the community, the sense of community. What I did was I'm going to share my screen here. I created a Family Feud game. So it mimics exactly the real Family Feud, if you guys know of this game. And we did staff versus students. So staff came with their families on the screen, and students came with their families, and they got to battle it out. It was really great because it kind of felt like we were back in the hallways of school, and they got to engage and interact with their families being there, so a deeper sense of connecting. And the questions were really Shalomit geared. So you had to attend Shalomit in order to know these answers. It was kind of inside jokes, things like, what would you find in a Shalomit student's backpack? If any of you guys want to be shared, I'm always happy to send this around. But it's a really fun game. It was funny. It was like an hour of a night activity and bringing everybody in the same zone and in the same platform. That's just another way that we maintain the sense of community. Another thing that I think is super important is to keep going with your activities calendar. So I'm not a teacher, but just as important as academics are, so too are, and I think a lot of you guys can agree, so too are the things that happen outside the classroom. And so once we went virtual, my biggest fear was, how are we going to continue doing these programs and activities? How will we keep it up? Something like Yom HaZikaron, ceremony for that, or Yom Ha'atzmaut. How are we going to have a Yom Iyun? And I knew Shabbatons were going to fade away. So that, if you take that away, the students directly think like, oh my gosh, this is a lot less fun. They took out all the fun of school. So I knew we had to keep that up. So something we did is we're doing virtual Yom Iyuns. So we bring speakers on our screen. JJ is helping us a lot, but we're doing a whole recorded ceremony for Yom HaZikaron tomorrow. So every part is the students and they are pre-recorded, but they get to watch, students get to watch students tomorrow. So no matter what, we continue with our activities calendar. Things like after school activities are still going on because we're making sure that our play group still has meets. So I suggest don't take the fun out of school if you don't have to. Try to keep it in there as much as you can, get creative with that. And things like dress up days, because it's school spirit day. And I have to say these 3 things that I find are super important and critical.
1 minute at less,
you.
30 seconds.
Got it. These critical points that I was worried about, our students actually came out stronger from all these things. They keep saying like, wow, our school, we have so much pride. Like we thought this would be our downfall. So just step it up a notch and remember, keep the fun in school. Thanks, JJ.
All right. Esty, that was amazing. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
We are moving forward. Hope you guys have a pen taking notes here. This is also going to be recorded. We'll send it out a little bit later on the video recording, the recording of the Zoom. All right, moving on. We now have Rabbi Rea Hoffman, who's finishing his master's in education. He's been teaching for almost 10 years. And he is currently the boys' middle school science teacher in Charades, which is a school here locally in Los Angeles. So without further ado, Rabbi Hoffman, the clock begins now.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Show me a thumbs up if you can. Awesome. At least a few people are paying attention. Okay. First and foremost, just like walking in the doors, the first thing about teaching, you actually have to be there. The same thing now with Zoom. Just a few quick tips on just making sure you're there in the best way you can and to help your students focus better on you. I suggest purchasing, if you can, noise canceling headphones. This way, if there are other kids in your house, with other people walking around, doors opening, doors closing, it really helps take away all that background noise so your students can focus better on only your voice. You can get them for pretty cheap, somewhere between $20 to $40 or so on Amazon. The sooner you buy them, the sooner they'll show up in the mail. Next, I suggest getting an Ethernet cable if you can. I know Wi-Fi is fun. It can be really useful to move around the house, but an Ethernet cable can really make all the difference when you're trying to have Zoom with many participants and you want to be doing a lot of other things on your computer that might be using the internet and streaming. It'll keep your connection nice and crisp. So try to get an Ethernet cable. The sooner you do it, the better. Also try to add lighting to your face. So that means, for example, putting a lamp right behind where your camera is. This will shine light onto your face. This way your students will see you. They'll see all of your expressions that you're making, and they'll be able to see you in a more, I guess, pleasant way, so to say. Also, if you can, try to get 2 screens. This will really help you in being able to do multiple things while teaching. So you can see all your kids' faces on one screen and then actually what you're reading from or what you're trying to show them. So I strongly suggest getting 2 screens. So those were just a few technical tips. When it comes to actually making class fun and exciting, I highly suggest focusing on educating, not on teaching. Right now, nobody around the world is focusing so much on content. It's much more on trying to teach the kids how to be the best person they can be and to get through some of the learning and the lessons that we get from our learning. If you can, a lot of students nowadays are missing out on social interactions with other people, other children from their class. They're being stuck at home with just their siblings. I don't know about you guys, but many children have problems with their siblings and they really look forward to time with their friends. But now their only interaction is with friends through a classroom setup. So maybe they have charusa time, but majority of kids are just on mute. They can't really have a conversation with their friends, or if everyone's off mute, it's 10, 15, 20 kids all blabbing at the same time. So I highly suggest, if you can, create something like morning snack time and afternoon snack time to randomly split up, let's say 3-4 kids into a breakout room. So in Zoom, there's an option to create breakout rooms. And when you do that, you could randomly assign different kids. And this way they could hang out with different kids while they're eating their snack. So let's say you give 15 minutes to snacks. You could tell the kids, I'm giving 20 minutes today, 5 minutes to go get your snack, and then come sit in front of the computer, eat your snack there while you're chatting with your friend. This way they still get that social interaction and hanging out with their friends, but not through a, not having to scream over many kids all at once. So that can be really helpful to a lot of students. Another idea I think can be really helpful is anytime when anyone, especially children, lose control over their lives, like the situation right now where kids are being stuck at home. They don't have a choice to go to the park when they want. They don't have a choice to hang out with which friends they can. They don't have a choice to even go on a trip with you, to go shopping, all the little things. So whatever control you can give them, I highly suggest you do. So what this means is teaching them what is within the norm and what is not. So for example, take like virtual backgrounds someone mentioned. Not only should the teacher be allowed to do virtual backgrounds, but if you can, try to teach your students how to do it and how to do it in an appropriate way. Just like we teach kids, how to dress up for perm, but we teach them what's an appropriate thing to dress up for on perm or in camp plays. So the same thing, use the virtual backgrounds, but your students are going to try to push the boundaries. So try to teach them what is within the norm of what's appropriate for class, what's within the norm just to do with when you're with a bunch of friends. And there's different standards that we have. And so there's something that's really funny, but it might disturb. So you could tell them, try to think about, would you do this? The example I give my students is, if you were Zooming with your grandfather right now, would you put that up, or would it be kind of rude and distracting to him? So it could be fun, but could also not have to be, something that's not appropriate. The same thing for us teachers. If we can do something to try to make it different, try to push our own boundaries, whether this means finding different websites that we're not used to, whether this means looking up a new technique and how to share our screen. Sometimes for people, it's hard to really look and find something that's new and different, but I can almost guarantee it, if you take the time now, in the long run, it'll pay off for the next few months while we're teaching online. Plus, when we get back into the classroom, a lot of these things you might want to carry over with you and continue to use when you're actually teaching back in the classroom.
1 minute, all right?
Okay, thanks. Just two more ideas I want to share. One fun thing to do is to let kids share what they have at home. This is one of the only times you'll ever have an entire class be able to take a class trip to each student's house every single day. So if they have something that they want to share with you, let them share it. So for example, you could do a project that has to do with the parasha and say, okay, everyone make something out of Lego and show it to us, or everyone make it out of blocks or out of magnetiles, and let us all share our screens, share our video screens to talk about why we made this and so forth. Give those kids an opportunity to shine what's in their house where they are stuck right now, but also something they never would have been able to bring to school. Just a quick tip for principals, if you can, I highly suggest making a assembly between 2 and 3 or 4 grades if you can, at least once a week. Otherwise, students are only seeing their own classmates, not even necessarily kids from the other part of their grade, let alone the grade up or the grade below them. And it could create a huge gap between, let's say, the second graders and the third graders if they haven't seen each other in months. So by having an assembly with multiple grades, a principal still checks in with multiple grades. You could have raffles, you could do songs, you could do stories. So I highly suggest that. I would like to give a big shout out to JJ for helping to organize this and finding all the different fun and exciting teachers. So thank you, JJ.
Thank you. Yeah. Give it up for everybody. Right. I see some brothers. That's great. I'm going all the way to Australia. This rabbi has worked chinuch for over 15 years, primarily with children from 4 years old all the way through 13 years old. Currently, he is the principal, or as they call it in Australia, the head of school at Jewish Studies at Sir College in the further ado, Rabbi Maleki. By the way, Rabbi Maleki, if you're able to, maybe a little bit here on the chat, post that hour-long video that I watched. I found Rabbi Maleki, I saw this incredible tutorial of how to maximize your Zoom classes. It's an hour-long class. Maybe you want to post that link when you're done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Firstly, a massive thank you to JJ for organizing this. Personally, never met JJ before, but there's an amazing way to be able to be introduced to you. What an amazing initiative to pull all of this together. And welcome to all of you teachers from all around the world. I know I only have about 4.5 minutes left, so I will jump straight into it. There is so much to share. There is so much that we could do as teachers to make our lessons fun. But there are 2 things which I would like to share with you right now. And one of these areas has already been touched on, but it's such an important area that I would like to speak about it again. Now, as teachers, as mechanchim, mechanchos, we've all had this situation where we have this child in our class who we just can't get him or her to behave. And we just try this and we try that and it just doesn't work. And then we see that child go to a different classroom and suddenly everything's okay. And the child is just amazing. And we think about like, what happened? And sometimes it works in the reverse. And we think like, why is this child behaving well for one teacher and not for another? A few weeks back, a friend of mine came to me and said that she has a son. Her son's about 10 years old, and he really needs to learn how to swim. The rest of the class know how to swim. He doesn't know how to swim. What should she do? Now, this child, unfortunately, had been through a lot of trauma, a lot of difficult circumstances, and he had a lot of anxiety and a lot of fears. One of his fears being he was so scared of water. He could have a shower, yes, but he would never get into a swimming pool. So I said, I have the swimming teacher for you. And so quickly, the next day, I organized a lesson for this boy with the swimming teacher. She calls me mid-lesson and says, you won't believe it, within 60 seconds, my son was in the pool. It took 60 seconds. I've been trying swimming lessons for 5-6 years. I could never get him into the water. 60 seconds, that's all it took. Now, what happened over here? Now, what really happened over here is that children, as mentioned before, and adults too, really need a sense of safety and connectedness. Now, sometimes with children, they don't feel safe. Sometimes it's real. They've been through a trauma. They've been through a difficult circumstance. And sometimes it's perceived. For whatever reason, they feel not safe. Now, it probably has nothing to do with you as the teacher. And it's just their perception. But if they don't feel safe, they're not actually going to connect. So it doesn't really matter why they don't feel safe. If we don't get them to feel safe, we're not going to be able to connect with them. We're not going to be able to learn. We're not going to be able to teach them. And so anything that we want to help them with is actually not going to work. So the first step is they're helping children to be able to feel safe. And that's such an important thing. Now, that's always important in the classroom, but it's especially important now. Like, we don't know what's going on in people's homes. In some people's homes, parents are struggling to work while taking care of their kids. In some homes, the parents don't have work anymore. And that creates such a stressful environment. And there's now also so much talk about the possible mental illness or issues that could happen in the future. Now, we have an incredible opportunity because we have our students nearly every single day in a live lesson. So when they come onto our lessons, we can create a new reality for them. We can help them remove themselves from that reality and come to a new reality. And so when they come onto the lesson, as some of the presenters mentioned before, we welcome them with a name. We actually should say their name. Take the time to say their name. Good morning, Mendel, and make it personal. Good morning, Mendel. I love your glasses. Oh, Rivka, you mentioned this or that yesterday. How did it go? Oh, I know it was your birthday. What did you do with your family? Say something, the name, and make it personal with every single child. Like, you may go to a social event, or Fabrengen or L'chaim, and if no one says anything to you, you're sitting alone, it doesn't really make us feel good. For children, that's even worse, especially on a Zoom lesson when they're at home. So as soon as we say their name, we say something personal, we've created an amazing new reality for them. So that's number one. We should do that every single day, every single child. Number two is performance-based praise, and it's very much connected. So as teachers, we always say, well done, class, that was fantastic, good job. But that's really superficial.
1 minute, Rabbi Maleki.
Okay, I'll make it really quick. That's really superficial. What actually are we talking about? So we could be talking about the fact that students completed their work, but a couple of kids think, well, maybe he or she meant that I was quiet for 60 seconds. So it's important that we actually say, Mendel, I love the way that you pointed in your Chumash. Rivka, fantastic work. And mention specifically what they did well in, or if they've achieved the 90% on some kind of quiz or something you've given them. I see you work so hard, and because you worked hard, you achieved this result. And that as well makes the kids realize that you know about them. You haven't forgot about them. They may be in their home far away on the other side of the city, but you know their name, you know how they're doing, and you really care about them. And that sets an incredible foundation for all the other learning and fun that you want to give them. A massive thank you, JJ, and thank you all for tuning in today.
All right, Rabbi Maleki, thank you so much. So I got a couple comments that I was breaking up a little bit in my stream. How is it now? Because I'm about to go into my own presentation. Any thumbs up there? Am I okay right now? I'm okay, Rabbi Turk? Thank you. All right. So, hi, everybody. For those who joined in the middle, my name is Rabbi JJ. I am the program director at Yavne Hebrew Academy, a modern Orthodox school in Los Angeles. And I've always been extremely passionate about informal Jewish education. I think informal education only makes the formal education and the classroom environment 1,000 times better. So I also feel like that if you're on this call, you're also passionate about informal education, because a teacher that is content and okay with sitting in the classroom and giving a share or a lecture, they're not really interested in cultivating some new ideas. If you're on this call, you're my people. It means you're the type of person who walks through the hallway and the kids come and give you high fives, or you say hello, or you're not scared to get into a costume, or to bring around a puppet, or to bring your guitar to school, whatever it is. Everyone of this group right now, the 298 people and the 33 people in the waiting room who can't get in, All of you are the type of people that change kids' lives through your smiles, through your programs, through your games, just through the extra things outside of the textbook. So I want to give you some practical ideas. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to jump into my PowerPoint presentation, and I got to start my timer. See, there we go. All right. So why do we need to keep school fun? Because if our school is fun, they're going to be bored and they're not going to enjoy it. But if it is fun, they're going to remain engaged, excited, and motivated. It will also help them maintain their social skills, which they so desperately need. And then our students would love school if school is fun. So let's jump into some practical ways. First thing is keep it natural. If you're going to be too official, too strict on your Zoom, it's going to be too rigid for these kids. Part of keeping school fun is if your little baby comes running on the screen, or your little son or daughter and says, "Mommy, Tati, I'm so hungry," or "My Zoom link doesn't work," or something like that, make it part of your lecture. Maybe introduce everybody to your baby. "Hi, everybody. This is my baby, Sarah. She's 6 months old. Anybody have any questions about baby Sarah?" What else can you do? "Thank you. Good to know. Baby Sarah. Thank you, baby Sarah." If your baby's crying, crack a joke about that. Also, how intimate is it that these students who love you now get a peek into your own house? Show them your kitchen, show them your living room, show them where you spend so many hours thinking about them and preparing for them. Okay, after school programs. So I know a lot of parents are coming back to the school, and some of them are saying there's too much Zoom, some of them are saying there's too little Zoom. So how do you find that balance? So what I found is to do a lot of the after school fun stuff, optional, but at least have it available. And this actually goes together with my my sixth bullet point, which is use your TAs. Especially if you're paying your staff and they're not leading classes, there is no reason why they're not involved. After the Zoom class, I want each and every one of you to call your teachers' assistants, your coaches, your office staff, anyone else who's part of the school, and find out their talents. Find out what they can bring to the table. I am sure there is so much depth. Let me show you what my school put together as an example. We looked into our TAs and our office staff, and after school every single day, we highlight their talents. Come, join cookie decorating with Moralea Goldbart, okay? Join story reading with Mr. Daniel Sackler. One of our teachers has a couple reptiles. She loves, her name is Miss Melissa Pershing. Radical Reptiles on Mondays at 3:30. Tap into the fun and the talents that you already have in your school and empower them, especially the janitors, the custodians, the office staff. These people are sitting at home. There is no reason why they're not being cultivated. There's no reason why they're not being used. And if you stop paying them for whatever reason hourly, start paying them an hour to come and do something like this. The kids miss them and they need them. All right, I see I have 3 minutes left, so let's keep it going. All right, games. All right, this is a big one. I'll tell you that I am super busy facilitating, let's go back. Facilitating games for schools worldwide. You can get my information. It's jjduchman@yha.org. Again, jjduchman@yha.org. I'm happy to come facilitate for your school, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek into some of my games that I facilitate that have been working with Mesivta boys to corporate businesses down to preschoolers. Minute to Win It. Check it up. They don't need to prepare anything because the good thing about Minute to Win It is they have everything in their homes. Reverse Charades. Ellen, the Generous, has a really awesome game called Heads Up. You could create it yourself where you hold up a sign, or you have your wife or your spouse or your child do it so you don't know what it is, and everybody on your Zoom room has to act it out. I did it a couple weeks ago for the Parsha. My wife held up all the different carbonis, and it was hilarious as everybody in front of my screen started acting like a sheep and tried to get me to guess that it said on the paper ram as a carbon. So that's another great idea. Bingo, great idea. Kahoot, great idea. Scavenger hunts, escape rooms. All of these are great ideas. Another thing you can use out is worldwide presenters. You don't need to fly in. You don't need to fly in any type of singer or lecturer or special guest, because all you got to do is get them on your Zoom. Every day we're bringing on different guests. You can do the same. take a minute right now. If you look like, if anybody on this chat, maybe some of our presenters, maybe some of the other educators, private message them right now in the chat. Say, hey, you must be a really cool mechanic. Would you come up to my classroom? I teach 7th grade in Chicago. Come on. They're going to get a little change of scenery. We'll keep it fun. Okay, empowerment, I don't want to really get into because a lot of my earlier presenters already presented that. I'll just go through what I have. Challenges, a talent show, show and tell, a Kinos Tyra. This was beautiful. Before Pesach, everybody. Oh, there's my timer. I'm going to wrap up. Before Pesach, everybody, I told the school to prepare 60-second golden nuggets on something from the Seder. And the whole Zoom class, not one teacher or Rebbe spoke. Only our kids, our students gave 60-second golden nuggets. We recorded it and we sent it out to the community and we said, here's something for you to say at your Seder from the Yavna students. Something super easy you could do, Kinos Terra. And also, make them a host once in a while. Let them run the group. Let them empower them to run the group. Okay, incentives, just some really good, cool ideas I heard of. I've seen other people. None of them are all my ideas. Some of my family, my siblings helped me with this. Uber Eats somebody a slice of pizza and a cold Coke. Amazon e-gift cards. Invite them to your family dinner, right? The best kid in class today could join Rebbe's family dinner. The best kid in class today can have a special breakfast, have coffee with your Mora. Other incentives include homework passes, the host for a day. Those are some awesome incentives. So to wrap up, keep it natural, after school programs, worldwide presenters, games, social opportunities. Leave the chat room on once in a while. I've seen so many educators, right away they close out the chat room. They don't let anybody talk. Let the kids talk for a little bit. If they're gonna be a little silly, a little kooky, a little jokey, big deal. Obviously monitor it, but let them have that social experience. A few people mentioned breakout rooms. Breakout rooms will change your lives. Breakout rooms are amazing. Look into what breakout rooms are. And last but not least, I just want to reiterate everybody, use your TAs, use the teacher's assistants, this office staff, the faculty members, call them or send them an email. What can you contribute to our virtual world to make class more fun? All right, everybody, that's what I got. If you want to contact me, I see somebody just threw my email address there on the group, on the chat group. More than welcome to help any of you guys support, facilitate. Looking forward. For our final presenter, our final presenter, we have all the way, and we will be done by 7 o'clock, I hope, all the way from South Africa. So we've covered South Africa, we've covered Australia, we've covered New York, we've covered Canada. Pretty good. We could use Rabbi B's Google Maps or Tzvi's Google Maps. I forgot who mentioned that. All right, one or the other. All right, I just got to share my screen because it is 4:30 in the morning there. So she also has a message for you guys. Let's just make sure. Do you guys see this, the video screen? Thumbs up if you see the video screen. No. Let's try this one more time. Share. Now you should see it. I'm going to take off my earpods, get the volume. And there we go.
Hello, from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm Sarah Bronstein, the principal of Torah Academy Primary School. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. I know I'm addressing a lot of very dedicated and committed educators. However, I am not committed or dedicated enough to wake up at 3 a.m. for this presentation. So therefore, this pre-recorded Zoom. Okay, so the presentation is how to keep virtual learning or remote school fun. And we're going to break it down into what is that all about, why we need to, and how to do it. Okay, so keeping remote school fun. If you look at the word fun, we have the letters F, U, and N. I see it as fundamental, universal, and neurodevelopmental. Fundamental means it serves the basis of our educating principles. It's universal, therefore it's not bound by culture, language, or age. Fun should be part of every educational system, regardless of age. And neurodevelopmental, it helps with brain function and our ability to learn, focus, develop memory skills, social skills, and of course a positive attitude to your learning. So as mentioned, I'm a principal of the primary school. I was in the nursery school for 8 incredible years in a very play-based, interactive, and fun environment. And it always poses a challenge to move into a primary school setting, which is a little bit more formalized, where syllabus is very important and academics becomes the order of the day. So how do we maintain that fun and exciting element where children are motivated and interested? So a few different principles that I'll run through in terms of why we need to educate children with these techniques and why they're part of making school fun and exciting. So schools should be devised by the interest of the child. There's the concept of emergent curriculum where the child actually guides to the learning process and chooses what they would like to learn. Project-based learning is also an incredible creative way of doing learning where children get to discover things and feel like they're on some sort of adventure, which is very fun and exciting. It's always very important to use multiple intelligence, the concept of Howard Gardner, where we diversify and vary our educational techniques so that children get to learn in different ways. They get to learn through drama and song and activity and games, puppetry and print, and all different ways of teaching so that kids are really engaged and involved in their learning. Most important it is to have a child-centered approach. It's not about what the syllabus needs or dictates or what the administrators are requiring or what the teachers need. It's the needs of the child and looking at the child in a wholesome way and saying, how can I engage you in the learning process? What are your needs? And how can I connect you into that? Fascinating thing about episodic memory. So there's semantic memory, there's episodic memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. Episodic memory is the memory we have of our personally experienced events. So something that had a profound impact on your life, an event, will be stored in your episodic memory and you'll remember it well. So if someone actually say to you, where were you on 9/11? You would probably be able to recall which city you were, which place you were standing, when you heard the news, or when you saw what actually took place because it had a profound impact on you. So the way we bring that into education is that when we offer children the opportunities for experiential learning, and an opportunity to be part of their learning process and to be in an environment where they are learning and engaged through experience, this will form part of their episodic memory, and it will then become part of their learning process and stay with them in their memory for many years to come in a positive and productive way. So if we want to just be a little bit practical, how do we do that? We are only in our 5th day of online learning. It's definitely been a challenge and we're getting better at it. But some of the things that have really worked for us, which I'm sure many educators are using, is keeping education fun by using online, competitive, fun, time-based activities like Feud, using Quizlets, and we recently found out about book widgets. Another nice idea that came from a local educator was putting a museum folder into the Google Classroom, which was the platform we're using, and the teacher challenges the children on a creative activity to come up with something. So like almost coming up, create a bonfire and use any materials in your household, make a 3D, 2D, 1D, present it to the class, and there they get to express some creativity, share and collaborate their ideas, and also come up with lots of using their planning skills and problem solving skills. Another idea is brain smart starts. Conscious discipline speaks a lot about starting a lesson with connection and with activity and movement and make it playful. So important that children feel playful before they get engaged in learning. That concept is that you have a connection ritual, and we know the reason for this is that when you have connections on the outside with people, then you form connections on the inside, and that's within your brain. We want children to be open to learning. We want them to make connections in their brain, but we want them to be present and mindful. And how do we get that? Through playful activities. I've got a link that will follow, which we probably won't have time to play through, but we'll present at the end. This also applies to Lego activities and activity challenges, which I will also present some links at the end. So finally, this is these are my contact details. I'm very happy to chat, collaborate, and support any of you. We're all in this together. But just a closing thought is that I read an article about the concept of a McDonald's education, or McDonaldization of education, and what that looks like. That as educators, we all of a sudden expected to rush out this new education system fast and hot. And many devoted teachers are feeling the pressure to supersize their content, quickly send kids with information. But we really have to step back and say, what are we wanting our kids to consume at this point? What will nourish and sustain them? And I think we have to be very mindful. We have an opportunity here to really zone in onto what will be so important. We've got this period of time and this education, like a capsule of time, which we want to make a huge impact on our children forever. So we want to make it play-based. We want to make it meaningful. We want children to be present. We want children to be happy. And we want children to be engaged. And in conclusion, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, then we rob them of tomorrow.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you very much. So as we are concluding, and if you would like to ask a question to one of our presenters who are still on, I see some of the good ones are still on, you can ask, just put in the chat room to who you're asking the question to, and follow up with your question. I just want to conclude by wishing all of you guys a tremendous amount of hatzlacha in your holy work of bringing Yiddishkeit, Judaism, alive and relevant for your kids. It shouldn't just be something of old, but it should be something fun and exciting. And that's why we were here tonight. And I wish you much hatzlacha in your mission of creating an exciting, invigorating, and engaging experience on the virtual platform. Okay, so I'm going to look here if there's any questions. There was also some follow-up links that some of the presenters commented on. I think I have that somewhere. I think I sent it to my wife, maybe not, to find it. Okay. Meanwhile, we're going to go to the questions, but this is the official end of our program. So let's give our presenters one more time a big round of applause. Thank you guys so much.
That's a step.
Hey, Rabbi B. Rabbi B.
I'm here. I'm here. Now you're muted. You're muted, Rabbi JJ. You're muted.
Some of the questions that came in were, when using virtual backgrounds, a lot of times like their face gets mushed and smushed. I'll show you a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you want to kind of explain.
So I'm using a green screen. I have a basement studio, so I'm a little fancier, but it's literally paper. It's just board paper that I use. Like, just like you buy it any, you can borrow it from your school's room. No, there's lots of, it's just green paper. I just covered a wall with green paper. But in Zoom, when you're choosing a virtual background, it says manually pick the color of the background if the detection isn't accurate. So you can actually click on that, and then you can actually click on the color of your background. So if you have a blue background, a brown background, a green background, you can manually choose the color of the background, and then that'll be taken away. Just make sure you're not wearing that color. The other thing is also, if your lighting in your room is, like right now my hair, you can see my hair is a bit kind of fuzzy when I'm over here somewhere. Like sometimes it gets a bit fuzzy because the reflection of the green right now is going on my hair, and that's being taken away too. I have other lights that I turn on. Just right now I needed to charge my phone. But there are, that's when I'm using a green screen. It's a little bit of a fancier way, but it works. And you just need a solid background that's somewhat different than what you're wearing. If you're wearing similar, then a lot of times you might disappear. So you do not need a green screen. It just helps to be against a specific colored background. So right, Rabbi Maleki, for example, his white background could be taken away and exchanged for a virtual background, and his black suit and dark shirt perhaps would be or his tie instead, or wouldn't be as won't be erased. So you don't need a green screen. I just happen to have one, so it's a bit more defined, I guess, but it works.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rabbi B. Another question which I've been wondering myself, I may have a suggestion or two. Rachel asks, is there a way for students to move pieces on games that we play on Zoom? Like if you want them to spin the wheel or anything like that, to actually engage on someone else's computer. I don't think that's possible, but I do think what is possible is there are games, and if you Google it, by the way, there's tons of bloggers and Instagrammers who are literally daily putting out games for the virtual platform. There are games that can be played at a multiplayer surface, and then everybody can just share their screens You can also have more than one person share their screen, and you can play like that on a multiplayer, or they can play it on their secondary screen.
Or even the teacher can share the screen of the online game, and then everyone can play on the online game, and also be on Zoom, I guess.
A tip for
on Zoom, sorry, JJ. On Zoom, you can enable remote access. You can give viewers remote access. The trouble, though, is if you have 20 students and they're all pressing it at the same time, it doesn't really work. So that's where that becomes an issue. So I know I've provided a lot of support for teachers over the past couple of weeks. So I ask for remote access through Zoom of their computer, and I help them with whatever is going on. But as soon as they touch their mouse, the whole thing goes all over the place.
So lots of people now are writing in the chat some really great things where there are websites that are created for this, like Kahoot. Bracha Yanni mentioned something about a spinner that's able to be spun. Send the links, put it all in the chat. This is great. I mean, if this whole thing would be worth it just for this, everybody's sharing their resources from around the world. It's a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. So thank you for those questions, and we will send those links. Let's go on to some other questions. I know some people had some questions for Tzvi Haber. He'll be back on in a moment or two. Adina, our first presenter. I just put her email address here as well. Sarah Holtzberg is asking, is it possible to share two screens in a Zoom class at the same time, like a game board and a virtual device? So I think that's kind of similar to the question we just had. At the same time, two people are able to share their screen at once. You're 100% able to do that on Zoom. I've done it and it works fine. Okay, let's see any other questions. I know also an early childhood teacher where the kids didn't really pick up on exactly what was going on, but she put like a bunch of balloons on the screen, and she told all the kids to pop the balloons, and really manually she was just deleting them off her Microsoft Words. But for the kids, the little kids, it felt like they were actually popping the balloons on the screen. I think she did that for a kid's birthday party, which was really cool. But you can adapt that for anything, where it seems like they're actually touch screening, but really you're doing the work on the flip side, if that makes any sense. Do you need a green screen for virtual backgrounds? You don't. Aryeh, you have any comment on that? Maybe for the virtual backgrounds? Aryeh Hoffman?
What was the question, JJ?
The question again is, do you need a green screen to do a virtual background?
I think Rabbi B would know better than me, but it really depends on if you have a solid color background. So for example, if you have a perfectly blue wall, then it works great. If you notice behind me, I have a whole bunch of pictures, so it does not work. So if you're willing to take down your pictures and have a solid blue or solid white, the point is basically the computer graphics just grab out any of one solid color and pull it out. You also have to make sure that your clothing, your yarmulke, your tichel, whatever it might be, does not match that color. Otherwise, it'll pull that out too, unless you want to have a lot of fun. So for example, if you do want to do that, wear a blue shirt with a blue background, and then you become like your head is floating by the coattail, for example. I've also have students do the opposite, where they find a way to only have their head become the virtual background, so their head becomes, you know, a bonfire or something fun for Lag Baimer. There's lots of fun ways you could flip around with it once you're having a lot of fun with it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I also tend to always have in handy when things are getting boring. This is specifically for the little ones. I always have Kuchimuchi available if things are getting boring, so Kuchimuchi can come say hi. Hello, everybody. I missed all of you so much. Thank you for joining. So it's always good to have puppets and other things you can throw in there and ask questions. I see some people are posting some really good resources, which is awesome. By the way, if anybody else wants to share something, I think we pretty much got all the questions. I guess we could unmute.
JJ, can you read? Can I read out a question and see if anyone else knows the answer?
I'm trying my best here to.
I know. Leibelovich asks, can multiple Zoom meetings join into a third meeting? So for example, I gave the idea of having schools do a few grades together. Does anyone know if it's possible to take, let's say, grade 1's class and grades 2 class and mix them into one big Zoom and merge them together? Does anyone know if that's possible? I guess raise your hand if you do. So I guess the workaround would be just to share a link to the new Zoom inside of the chat and just tell everyone to click that. But otherwise, it would be very beneficial if you could start your class, let's say, every Monday morning, and then at 9:30, all the classes kind of join in together with the principal.
By the way, if anybody wants to join in my class, merge our classes, we could do something one morning. Maybe we could learn together our classes. That would be great. I'm totally up for that. anybody is up for that. I pretty much have access to any grade. So, okay, good question. How do we do an escape room? So here's a piece. I'm going to tell you 2 secrets. If you stayed on this long, I'm going to share with you secrets. And this also is a very good for early childhood. So there's a website, okay? I'm probably might beat myself up after for giving this to you all, but I'm feeling it in the moment. There's a website called gigsalad.com. I use it all year long to find vendors, entertainers who are nearby that can come do really cool things for Purim, Hanukkah, and the like. However, 90% of these entertainers and artists and clowns and jugglers and animal people and trampolinists, whatever it is, now are doing virtual live Zoom classes. They need to make a parnasa. So they're not expensive. They want like $25 to come on a class. Some of the zoos want like, if you're teaching maybe about animals, the karbanis, you're teaching about Gemara, you need a specific animal you want to bring out. There are petting zoos that literally bring the phone up to every single animal and they can show you, what you're teaching about, show you what a mum is, show you vice versa. So it's called gigsalad.com. And there's under each vendor, it'll say if they're offering virtual services. And by the way, these people are all dying for money because the entertainment industry obviously was hit some of the hardest. So feel free to bargain, feel free to barter, feel free to make deals on multiple sessions. Now, how does that fit in with escape rooms? Because it'll be really cool that people who are going to be announcing the next trivia or riddle or whatever it is to get you to the next round isn't just their Rebbe who they're always accustomed to, but you paid $5 for somebody with a 6-foot snake around their neck to say, boys and girls, the next question is, what was the Mizbeach called in the Beit HaMikdash? So 2 types of Mizbeachs, whatever it is, and then whoever gives the answer is given the code or given the access to the next round on the escape room. Also, those bloggers that I was talking about, just type in virtual education, virtual games, tons of escape room templates for you to join on. Okay, we're going to bring on Svi Habers back. And Svi, someone asked about the clue game. If you want to jump into that a little bit, Svi.
Sure, absolutely. It's good to see you all. Before I tell you about the clue idea, I just want to actually bounce back to Rabbi B. First of all, I wanted to express tremendous hakaras tov. I was really blown away by your presentation. I don't know if it's allowed in your school.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me or we don't see you. Are you on the phone or?
All right. No, I'm just totally didn't press.
Oh, there you are.
Video.
All right, there you are.
B, I don't know if it's allowed in your school, but if I would love the opportunity to audit one of your classes. I don't know what's the policies, but if your school would allow it, that would be amazing. But now I just want, maybe one of the things that popped out on me before I get to clue was if you actually look at your background right now, is that your actual classroom?
So it's not, but I do have a picture. I have to find it right now, but I do have sometimes use my actual classroom. And that's a great idea. I like that idea for sure.
Because that actually stood out to me because as I saw that, I don't know your classroom. When I saw that, it struck me a lot of my high school students are struggling with this formality. Like they're actually having a harder time than the younger kids are.
Right.
This is like cool. And I actually wonder for those the educators that are on this call that are for high school students, I would encourage you to try that out. I wonder if you were to take a classroom picture and then have that as your wallpaper instead of like the Cotel, right? Which a lot of your high school, these kids know education, they know technology, so that's not going to blow them away. Right. But I think that there might be something very interesting about having your classroom. It's a sense of familiarity, comfort. I actually, while I jumped off this call, I messaged a few of my local teachers, and they were all blown away at that idea. So maybe I don't know if that's your idea, but you inspired the Baltimore teachers already to start doing that in high school and back to Philip. So thank you.
And what a great idea also for the school at an administrative level to provide the teachers with their classroom photo. That way, the whole school has still that feeling of we're a school, we're together, we're all a part of a group. That's a really nice idea. I like the connection.
Right. I'm going to pivot now to address JJ's original question about the clue idea. So there's really a few ways to do it. I've done it in multiple ways, but it really only works with specific topics. So you have to get a little bit creative if you're teaching more of the Judaic side, but I'll give you what I did, and then you can adapt it the way you want for your class and your topic. But the general idea was, we all know Clue. So Clue has, there's the suspect or the murderer, there's a person, an object, and a place. So the way that I did, right, there's a murderer, what did he use, and what room did he do? So the way I did it was I picked volunteer students prior to the class, and they actually changed their backgrounds. I had a student in a library. We had different kids in different rooms, right? Multiple kids in different rooms and multiple objects. And I went through different clues. I guess, just brainstorming out loud now. So if you were in the Judaic department, maybe you would want to use, if you're using like example Gemara, you could probably, it sounds like there's a lot of creative people on the call here. You can reconstruct the Gemara case based off of the mystery of what happened. But the answer to the question is, I have a lot of students working with me. It's not just I'm giving the case and the students are acting it out, but rather I have a lot of students in the know. As an adjunct to that, I don't know if you're all familiar with the game Mafia and Werewolf. They're two very similar games. And I don't know, maybe JJ, did anybody speak about this while I jumped off?
No one mentioned about Mafia, which is a great game. You can
So
share
Mafia
that.
is a fantastic game where the students basically, again, it takes pre-work. I mean, you're assigning a mafiosa, or if you're playing werewolf, you're assigning the werewolf.
Yeah, the doctor, investigator,
The doctor,
different
right?
ways
You're
of playing
assigning all
it.
those people beforehand, but it's a great way, and you could build in a lot of Judaic classes. If you're doing, let's say, if you're doing American history, you can do JFK, or you could do Abraham Lincoln, and you could do John Wilkes Booth. You can use characters that you're using in your classes, and then substitute them out. From Mafia, put in John Wilkes Booth. If it's Abraham Lincoln, JFK, you can pull in your own characters. But it's so much fun. I will tell you a really fun idea that I came across earlier this week, JJ, if it's okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to share one more idea. So JJ interrupted me before and said that like my screen was off. So what a lot of teachers, it wasn't my idea. What a lot of teachers are doing now is they're signing on with the screen off and they're muted, and they change their name. JJ, you heard this? And they change.
I've seen it.
And you change your name. So it doesn't say Rabbi JJ. It doesn't say Tzieber.
Right.
It doesn't say Rabbi B. It says anonymous guest. And you feed them through the chat. You feed them riddle questions based off the content that they're learning, that they have to figure out who you are. So if you're a history class teacher and you're teaching them about, or Judaic teacher, you're teaching them about which Rebbe this is, or which history teacher this is, which history character this is. They have to ask you questions, and slowly but surely, they as a team figure out who is this anonymous person. And you turn on the screen, and it's your virtual background is JFK.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Did we miss any other questions? By the way, Rabbi B, back to what you're saying about someone going to take pictures of the classrooms. That's another great way to empower the office staff or TAs, teachers assistants, or co-teachers that are not leading Zooms and are under payroll. Get the administration to have them doing things like that to help you maximize your opportunity. If you can't copy and paste from chat, a good thing you could do is just grab a picture with your phone or take a screenshot. If you're on a Mac, you do Command-Shift-4, and you could screenshot. I know on Microsoft Windows, you can use a snipping tool. Snipping tool is also great too. And I think there's a way also to save the chat. Anybody know how that works?
JJ, I think you're the only one that can.
I can save the chat? Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that before I end the meeting. Okay, wow, we still have 168 educators on right now. I feel like if we end the meeting right now, people are gonna be, maybe it's good to leave them wanting more.
JJ, if I could JJ, I'm just gonna
Sure.
speak from Baltimore, Maryland.
Sure.
I would love not to present again, but I would love to be a part of this type of conference again. Maybe we could have different people present on a weekly basis or something. I think that there's a tremendous cost. I think that every educator is struggling in different capacities, and I think I can speak for myself. I gained a lot from tonight, and I wonder if you were to do this as a more than a one-time thing. I think that
Yeah, we'll schmooze.
Surprised if there was another 180 people on this, JJ, next week.
We'll schmooze. We'll just have to figure out how to fix the YouTube link, because for some reason my YouTube was feeding an old link and it wasn't working. So I'll have to figure that out later. Rabbi Maleki, I think there was one more question here for you if you're still on with us. Or maybe it was just a comment here. Younger kids won't know how to log on and off again. Older boys will take an extended breaks. I think that was just a comment. Okay. Last chance for questions, everybody. At 7:30, I'm going to shut it down.
Sorry,
Yes.
Jay, I'll just make a quick comment on that. It really depends on how your school is set up. So the way our school is set up, that all our students have a school email address. They all have a list of all the meeting IDs. In our lessons, we've taught them how to connect. We've spent whole lessons teaching them how to use the meeting IDs. We've walked them through the entire process. We taught them how to use their emails. So we spent lessons going through all of that with them. So even the kids